So let's start with the JohnPod. How are we going to be using the JohnPod? Now this can be used for indication work, scent ID work, and for teaching search behaviour. So we can use all three training elements of scent work. We can train with the JohnPod. This is really, really good for classes as well, because it just makes it a little bit easier for our clients. So we can put our odour into the hole, and we can hold this to safely be getting that scent ID for our dogs. They're not going to be able to get to the actual odour source, so they're not going to be at risk of swallowing anything they shouldn't be, and it's nicely held within that hole. And it's quite ergonomic to be able to hold in your hand as well, to be offering the dogs for that scent ID. Now we can change the amount of odour that's coming in and out as well, depending on what you want to be working with your dog. Now the beauty of these as well is that we can turn that off completely, so there's no odour coming out. Now if your dog hits on just this, then they're not going to get any rewards. They're going to eliminate the actual smells of the JohnPod and just be imprinting the odour smell. This also means that if you are talking to your clients while they are working in their class, you can just say to them to turn that to the off part, and it's safe just to hold. A, nothing's going to fall out of it, and B, the dogs aren't going to hit the odour without being rewarded. So it makes it a really, really simple way to be able to turn that odour off while you're talking to your students in class. So we can also use this for indication work. We can have it just laying on the ground or in our hands, or we can put it into one of the systems, or we can put the ground spike on it. So we can use any add-on that we want, but we can teach our indication work on this as well, with the odour coming out of it, with the different amounts of odour coming out as well. So we're still raising and lowering the criteria for each exercise too. So we can teach our search behaviour by either just placing multiple items, multiple JohnPods on the ground, or we can put the ground spike in and put them in the ground in a lineup, or we can use the connecting rods and the bases in that lineup. Now the beauty of the fact that these bases, although I'll go on to the bases in a bit later on, but we can create any kind of design for our lineups of our searching, so we can start to get our dogs to be searching in a different kind of pattern instead of just down in a straight line as well. So there's a multifunctional way that we can teach that search behaviour too. So going on to our smaller one, so this very much is very similar to our JohnPod. So our JohnPod Mini is very, very similar to the original JohnPod. It's just in a smaller design, so it might be that there's limited space that you have, or you want to put it in your pocket, but everything that the JohnPod can do, this can do, just a little bit smaller. So the space that it's got for holding the odour is slightly smaller on this one, not by much at all, but everything that we can do with the normal JohnPod we can do with these, but just in a smaller sense. So we're then looking at the HandyPod, and once again we can do every exercise with the HandyPod as well, because we can turn that odour off, and we can raise and lower that criteria so easily just by turning it slightly. So if you've got people in your class if you're a dog trainer, you've got people in your class who are working at different levels, then we're not waiting around so much. We're going to get the different odour and putting that down. We are literally just turning that ever so slightly, just to change it so it's easier for some dogs and then harder for others. So it's a nice, really simple, quick and easy way to be raising and lowering that criteria, either for your own dog or for your dogs in your class. So once again, this does quite a lot that the JohnPod does as well. It's just in a smaller size, and it just has a slightly different way of opening. So going on to our two PocketPods. So these are our two PocketPods. Again, even our PocketPod has a drilled hole as well, so they can be used in the system. Everything can be used together. Now, these ones have got the holes in the top, so we're always going to have odour coming out of these, so we can't turn these ones off. So these are going to be your next stage of working. We're not going to be doing a great deal of scent ID with these, because we want to be using the large holes to be getting a lot of that odour out, but we can still do indication exercises and scent ID exercises with these. Dedication to odour we can do with these because we've still got the odour coming out. Now we can raise and lower the criteria by just undoing that a little bit more if you wanted to allow more odour to come out. So the thread is quite long, so we can have a varying amount. Let's see if we can get that on camera. A varying amount of odour coming out if we wanted to. And then, so we can have it quite a lot. That still isn't off. So we can have quite a lot of odour coming out if we wanted to, or we can bring it right down. There's obviously a bit more space to put our odour in this one, but we can use these either in the system for lineups, for different shape lineups, for different pattern searching, or we can put these out in the environment for the dogs to go and find as well. We can throw these because they are so solid, they're not going to break, so we can eliminate our human scent going over towards search areas because we can throw these into them. And finally on our pods, our little pocket pod, again it works in the same way as a PocketPod Maxi, so we can have a different amount of odour coming out, or we can have it right down and just use the 2 holes here. Now this can be used in lots of different ways. We can put it in our lineup, we can put it out in search areas, we can throw it as well, it's really secure. How I like to use these also is by putting the ground spike into them, and we can use them as our tracking points to get our indications on our tracks as well. So as we're laying our track, these little items can go in our pocket and we can just put them into the ground so that they're nice and secure as well in the ground, which means our dogs can then track and then indicate on these items. And we can either put something in there we want them to indicate on, or we can just douse them in our human scent by putting them in our pockets. We're going to have lots of our human scent on there. So we can use them as tracking items as well and secure them into the ground nicely. We can also teach that indication for tracking with these little pocket pods because they're a nice size, nice and small, and we can drop them on the ground nicely. So let's go on to the connecting items. We'll start with the ground spike. So the ground spike, it's nice and strong. It's not going to break if you're putting it into the ground, and it can hold those pods without any connecting system. We can put them anywhere in the ground as long as these pods will go into the ground. Concrete, here you're going to need something else, but if they're going into soft ground, then we put the pods out and they're going to be nice and secure wherever we want them to be, whether that's for tracking or whether that is for detection. Either way, these ground spikes are great for securing them to the ground or keeping them upright. Now our bases, I'll just undo this one. Bases, again, they're made out of a really strong plastic and they each have a thread in the middle to be able to put any of our pods on them. And they have 4, put it that way, it's easier. They have 4 threads around the outside, which means we can create any pattern we want for our dogs. And you'll be amazed at how many dogs are used to working in a straight line for their searching. To be able to teach them to work in a pattern creates a more methodical search dog. So to be able to make any kind of pattern that you want out of these means that we can start to teach our dogs to search methodically and search in a different way as well. So this adds a new dimension to your classes if you're working as a dog trainer, and it adds a new dimension to your own personal training if you are training your own dog, to be able to not just have a lineup of items but to have an actual pattern that your dogs are following and your dogs are searching in that pattern. Now, what these can also do is they have little holes drilled in here, so we can attach these to the walls as well. Obviously it's a little bit more difficult to attach them to the walls because they have to be screwed onto the walls, but you can make whatever pattern you want on the wall, and then once they are on the wall you can then just attach your pod onto them, whatever size pod you want. You can't really see the plastic there, and we can start searching on walls as well. Nice and robust. See, that's just proof how robust it is. I just dropped it on my toe and that hurt. So these are nice and robust as well. They're going to be secured to the wall. They're not going to look obtrusive on the wall because they're quite slim and quite swish. And then we can just attach anything that we want to the wall. So we could attach a JohnPod Mini if we wanted to. And they attach attach really quickly, really easily. So we can have that on the wall if we wanted to work with that one on the wall. Any of these, they all interfit with each other, and they are that simple to take apart. It's literally a couple of screws in and you're good to go. A few more to make it a bit more secure. So they're nice and secure, but really, really easy to put together. They are also absolutely perfect to be carrying around with you as well. So the PocketPod fits in your pocket. All the other pods can easily fit in your pocket as well. But to actually maneuver the whole of the system around, it fits into a box nicely, and it's easy to carry. It's easy to store. Doesn't take up much space because the way it comes apart then just stores together. And it's quick and easy to set up for your training or for your classes as well. If you're interested in purchasing any of these items for your scent work classes or for your scent work training, then please head over to either the Facebook page, which is a JohnPod scent work system, or you can head over to our website, which is www.enigmacanine.com, and head over to the JohnPod page, and you'll see all of these items as well, with a description of what they do and a few videos of my dogs working with them.